In my last video, I decided it would be a fun idea to talk about the Ben 10 books. These were stories that were not canon, but still had some very charming, interesting, or very odd and bizarre plots. Since March was a very busy month for me and I wasn't able to do a lot of Ben 10 things, I decided that I would do a very short video here because I thought it'd be just kind of fun to do, and it's also as an apology for making you guys wait so long for another Ben 10 video. It's time for another tier list, but this time we're going to talk about the Ben 10 shorts. Now for those of you who don't know, in between the classic series and Alien Force, there were little shorts of the original series that would play during commercials. These shorts basically consisted of like 2 minutes of Ben just using an alien per short, and there being some sort of silly or cute charming plot. I like to think of these as some sort of small little final goodbye to the classic series because this is right before Alien Force premiered. In fact, some of these shorts would actually end up airing for the first time after Alien Force already premieres, which I found really interesting. I actually didn't remember that. These shorts I would consider semi-obscure media because there's actually a good chunk of people who actually didn't know these existed when I asked about it on Twitter, which I found very interesting. We're going to look at these 8 shorts in chronological order and see where I rank them, starting off with Hijacked. The plot of this short is while Gwen and Grandpa Max go to a gas station to get some stuff, Ben is left behind in the rust bucket while robbers try to steal it. Since Ben is still inside, he uses forearms to stop them, with some shenanigans thrown in for good measure. Right off the bat, before I talk about my proper thoughts on the short itself, I do want to point out something that I'm going to point out for each short, but I'll point it out here in a more general way, is that I like that these shorts reuse assets from like the first season of Ben 10. This location we see here is the gas station from the Alliance, which I didn't notice until rewatching for this video. Not only that, but also many of the villains will be just like robbers that are reused from previous episodes. In fact, this guy with the ponytail is Scooter, who we see in A Change of Face and The Return. As for the short itself, I think this one is nice and silly, but that's really it. Now, I'm not expecting anything groundbreaking with these shorts. They're shorts. They're not like 2-parters or season finales or anything like that, but, you know, this one is okay. Also, this isn't like a discredit to the short itself, but I love how forms can actually fit in the rust bucket here, when in Kevin 11, he couldn't fit at all, which I found a little funny. In fact, the visuals are basically what you're going to get the most out of for this short. The idea of a big, strong character driving a car he could barely fit in while struggling with 2 regular robbers is a little funny, but nothing more. I think this one honestly fits into C tier because it's simply okay. There's nothing to really love or hate about it. It's just fine enough. The next short we're going to cover is Snack Break. This one has Ben and Gwen stumbling upon a vending machine and they both want some candy. However, Ben has some money and gloats about it while Gwen is struggling to find some herself. Karma reaches Ben pretty quickly, however, as the vending machine ends up getting stuck, so Ben gets the idea to go gray matter to get the candy himself. By the time Gwen does find some money herself, the Omnitrix times out and Ben is stuck in the vending machine, with Gwen gloating about getting Ben's candy instead as payback and then walking off as he's still stuck. I really like this short because one thing I love specifically about the classic series is that the way Ben uses the Omnitrix sometimes is exactly how I imagine a kid would. For example, in Tough Luck, he uses it to fuck with the magician and turn into Wild Mutt. In The Unnaturals, he uses Accelerate to mess with his school bullies. In fact, in the same episode, Ben cheats using gray matter to get a free music pod by counting jelly beans in a barrel. This short is actually kind of a similar instance, except in this case he actually did pay for the candy fair and square. I would normally question how Ben uses gray matter to go in a vending machine and then he turns back into Ben very fucking quickly. Like, it had to have been like, what, 2 minutes? Either that or Ben took his sweet ass time going in that vending machine. But as you'll see with some of these shorts, the Omnitrix will actually time out pretty damn quickly. I'm also not too bothered by the ending of the short where Gwen leaves Ben in the vending machine because it's safe to assume that Gwen has her magic by now because this airs between season 4 of Classic and Alien Force. Not only that, but by the time Ben's Omnitrix recharges, he'll be able to turn back into like gray matter or go upgrade or something. I honestly didn't expect to like this short a lot, but I think this one's really cute and charming and I like a lot of elements about it. I also like that this location is the beginning of Permanent Retirement, one of my favorite season 1 episodes, so I think that Snack Break honestly deserves an A tier. The next short to cover is Survival Skills. This short has Ben messing with the campfire with a water gun, and as Karma, he's not allowed to use heat blast in order to put the fire back on, but instead has to make it himself. And of course, as you would expect, Ben is struggling, so he ends up caving in, using heat blast, but gets in trouble when he gets caught, and then ends up becoming Gwen and Grandpa Max's personal marshmallow roasters, which I think is a very funny visual. In fact, it actually reminds me a lot of one of my favorite fan arts by Leonardo Vincent of Heat Blast, Gwen and Grandpa Max. I love this art so much, so credit to them. I really like this short as it gives me vibes of the first episode. In fact, that's the location location of this short, the Yosemite campsite. I think it's pretty funny seeing Heat Blast hide up in a tree that eventually has its branch burned because of his body. That's pretty funny, but I do kind of wish there was more comedic charm to Ben actually trying to put the fire on himself. That part is just okay. The real fun is when Heat Blast shows up though. I think overall this one is going to get a B rank. I like it more than Hijacked, but less than Snack Break. I still think this one is pretty cute and charming though. Our next short is Radio Dazed. This one has Ben and Gwen enjoying their favorite music until Grandpa Max decides to change it to shag carpeting, which I'm a little confused by because Ben and Gwen don't like it here, but like in Monster Weather, we saw them both enjoying it. But I guess I suppose they're more upset about their music being changed abruptly, which to be fair, yeah, that was a little rude of Max, but you know what? He's having fun and we love him, so I can let it slide. Gwen gives Ben the idea to go upgrade to merge with the radio and play whatever music they want, which ends up working for a bit, but then the radio gets all glitchy from Max and Ben going back and forth. Ben times out, and then they end up having to deal with shag carpeting anyway. This one is kinda neat, but really short, and not much happens here, but there's a few things I do like. One thing is Gwen mentions cows to distract Grandpa Max, and by the end of it, Max points out a cow for Gwen, which I think is so funny. Not only is the delivery great—
"Oh look, Gwen, a cow!"
but it implies that Max didn't even catch on that Gwen was distracting him with cows, even though he saw that Ben was messing with the radio's upgrade by the end of the short. I find that really funny. Also, Upgrade just looks so odd here. I don't know, seeing him with the white pattern as he's in like this like serpent blob form is very odd to me. I think Radio Days deserves a B tier. If it was a little longer, then I would put it higher, but for what we have, it's still pretty good. The next short we have is Sleepaway Camper, which I actually did talk about in my Ripjaws video. To quickly summarize this one, Grandpa Max's snoring is keeping Ben up, and after failed attempts of trying to get some sleep, Ben devises a plan to go gray matter to sleep in some hole so he could finally have some quiet, but gets Ripjaws instead. I already mentioned what I thought of this short in the Ripjaws video, so to quickly paraphrase it, I think this one is super fun and cute. I love that Ripjaws gets some time to shine here. Even if it's not for some cool action, it's just nice to see him get some actual acknowledgement in a classic. As I said in my Ripjaws video, I think it's very charming and cute to see Ripjaws sleeping underwater. Also, I'll say once more that I think it's kind of low-key scary that Ben just goes alien above Gwen when she's sleeping, because imagine if he got like Frankenstriker forearms. It'd be like Gwen got hit by Bowser's down B. Honestly, this might be a hot take, but I think this one honestly deserves S tier. This short has the road trip's charming elements from classic, the visuals and creative ways that Ben tries to get sleep is pretty fun, and of course, like I said, I love seeing Ripjaws appear in the solution at the end of the episode. I know that people like to make the comment that when the Omnitrix times out that Ben would drown, but the thing is that like, I feel like he would just rise to the top, or maybe, fuck, I don't know, it's a short, like, it's not something you think deep about. Regardless, I think this short deserves S tier. Now we move on to Dogged Pursuit. This one has a robber stealing an old lady's purse, and Ben uses Wildmutt to get it back, but since the old lady doesn't have good vision, she mistakes Wildmutt for a regular kid and ends up harassing him with kindness. We don't get too much Wildmutt in this one, but we do get to see his vision again, which I always liked seeing in the series. I wish they did that a little bit more. One thing I didn't point out is that low-key, these shorts have these characters looking a little off-model. Not just the upgrade serpent thing, that's just a coloring thing to me, but you see like Wildmutt drawn a little weird in a few of these frames, and then also like Gwen and Grandpa Max look a little off. Like, I just feel like some of the models are just a little off, but it's not that big of a deal. I think Dogged Pursuit is honestly okay. I feel like this one I could give a C rank. It's charming for what it is, but like the whole joke with an old lady with bad vision mistaking Ben for like a regular kid as Wildmutt isn't really that funny to begin with. The next one to talk about is Let the Games Begin. This one has Ben and Gwen playing a road trip bingo game, and Ben keeps losing. The two of them are playing to compete to see who gets to sit in the front for a week, and Ben decides to do double or nothing, but gets the idea to cheat with Accelerate. The cheating backfires, however, as Ben needs to find an ice sculpture, but unfortunately ends up having the ice sculpture melt. It ends up becoming a puddle for some geese that Gwen needs to find to win, and she ends up winning, with Ben getting annoyed and accidentally blabbing out that he cheated with Accelerate. Gwen wins, Ben gets punished, and that's the end of the short. Honestly, I'm gonna sound a little harsh, but I think this might be my least favorite of the shorts, because this one has Accelerate, my favorite of the original 10 aliens, and all we get of him is like him running really fast and you just see the blue streaks. You don't see his body, nothing, not even like a close-up of his face or anything, not even like one frame before he runs, like one little pose. It could have been his PNG and I would have fucking taken that. That is so low effort to me. Honestly, this one gets an F tier. I know it's a little harsh, but I like to have a rule where there has to be at least one S in F tier, and by virtue of like comparing all of the shorts together so far, I think this one definitely definitely deserves the F tier. Our final short is Handle with Care. This one has the Tennyson trio revisiting the museum from Washington, BC, where some robbers try to steal some priceless crystal eggs. Gwen really cares about these eggs and doesn't want Ben to break them, so Ben uses Diamond Head and kinda has a bit of a struggle keeping the eggs safe while also dealing with the robbers. I think this one is pretty fun, and there's one thing very interesting I want to point out before I talk about my thoughts on the rest of the short. This is a blink and you'll miss it moment, but you'll see Diamond Head's arm kind of stretch out a little bit, similar to the arm stretching we see him do in Omniverse. So I wonder if this is like the first time we actually get to see that, or if this is like just like a modeling thing where like his arm is just really long for some reason. But no, I think he genuinely stretches out his arm, and it's really cool that we actually got to see that in Classic before Omniverse. I've heard that some people actually aren't a fan of this power. Personally, I am, as I like the idea of him stretching his limbs, kind of like how he stretches his crystal constructs, considering how he can make them and then make them grow after it's already been made, but that's just me personally. As brief as this short is, it is pretty fun seeing Diamond Head struggle with the crystal eggs, even balancing one on his head. And one thing that someone pointed out on Twitter is that he has eye bags in this frame, and that's really funny to see how stressed he is. I think this short is pretty fun, and there's not much else to say, so I'm gonna give this one an A tier. I like this one a lot. Now you may notice that despite the fact that I said we were talking about 8 shorts, there's still quite a few minutes in this video left. Well, there's a reason for that. That's because there's still a 9th short I didn't talk about that, funny enough, believe it or not, I didn't watch for the first time until right before recording the audio for this video. Despite being a huge Ben 10 fan, I actually have never seen the full movie Destroy All Aliens. I know. It's like, wow, fake ass Ben 10 fan over here. But I'm gonna eventually watch it for the first time, and I really can't wait to do that. But I decided to check out the short Road Trip Rumble, and holy shit, this one was awesome. Okay, so to talk about the art style first and foremost, I actually really like this art style. I honestly think a Ben 10 show could work in CGI, but it has to be done right, and I think this is a step in the right direction. This short has the Tennyson trio stopping at a truck stop, and while Max is not there, Ben and Gwen fight as the two were arguing prior. This one has so much cool action of not only Ben using his aliens, but Gwen using her magic, something that all these shorts really lacked. The action here is so cool, but also really funny because I swear there's times where Ben just attempts murder, like crushing Gwen with a truck. Like, I know she's magic and shit, but like cutting it a little close there, Ben. Seeing Gwen fuck with the Omnitrix and forcing Ben to turn into Upgrade, that's pretty cool. And even though I'm not a fan of how the animation is for when Upgrade merges with machines, I still think that seeing him upgrade the Rust Bucket and fight Gwen with it is really fun. This is easily the best short, and even though it's an unfair comparison given that this was years after the classic shorts and it is in a different art style with a lot more action, I have to put this in S tier. This short is so cool, and I can't wait to see Destroy All Aliens. Like, I know that movie's gonna rock. I really wish that Alien Force, Ultimate Alien, or Omniverse had shorts as well. I heard there's reboot shorts, but I'm not planning to watch anything related to the reboot until my retrospective. I think that Omniverse would have probably benefited from the shorts the most because while Alien Force and Ultimate Alien probably would have had nice shorts anyway, I like the comedic stuff from Omniverse for the most part, so I feel like there it would fit a lot more. It would also give opportunity for some aliens to shine, such as the Outbreak aliens or aliens that didn't get much time despite being staples, such as Brainstorm or Lodestar. Overall, the shorts were really solid, and while some of them weren't exactly my cup of tea, I liked a majority of them. They were a lot of fun to watch. While I did rank them here and did talk about them, I do recommend you check them out as they're really fun, and if you missed a classic series and you haven't seen these will give you a nice little welcome back to nostalgia. I hope you guys enjoyed this little tier list video that I decided to make out of nowhere. I'm also curious of what you guys thought. Did you find any enjoyment from the Ben 10 shorts? And what ideas would you have for a UAF or Omniverse short, if we were to ever get any? As always, I appreciate your guys' support, and happy night hunting.